The twin suns of Zela Prime cast long shadows across the ancient stone amphitheater, their merciless rays reflecting off the polished metal embellishments that adorned the Arena of Fates. Once a sacred site of the old tribes, the arena had been renovated and repurposed by the ruling elite, transformed into a spectacle of blood and entertainment for those who controlled the planet's resources. Today marked the second day of the three-day festival, when clans from across the region gathered to prove their strength and honor ancestral combat traditions. In the holding cells below the arena, Elias Corvin regained consciousness with a pounding headache and the taste of copper in his mouth. His pilot's uniform, once pristine with the insignia of the Terran Exploration Corps, was now torn and stained with his own blood. The last thing he remembered was the warning signals blaring as a scout ship entered Zela Prime's atmosphere. Then darkness. "Get up, outsider," a gruff voice commanded. A reptilian guard prodded him with an electrified staff. "You've been purchased for the arena. Consider yourself fortunate. At least you'll die with a weapon in hand instead of in the mines." Elias struggled to his feet, his military training kicking in despite the disorientation. 6 years as a frontier scout had taught him to assess his surroundings quickly. Stone walls, iron bars, at least 20 other prisoners, various species, all looking malnourished and defeated. Only one figure stood out. A slender female leaned against the far wall, arms crossed, her skin a deep indigo blue that caught the light filtering through the cell's high windows. Unlike the others who avoided eye contact, she stared directly at Elias with piercing gold eyes. Her face bore intricate markings, dark lines that curved along her cheekbones and forehead, disappearing into her scalp where her hair was tied back in elaborate braids interwoven with metal beads. But what drew his attention was the broken shaft of a spear she clutched tightly in one hand. Before Elias could speak, the guards began calling out names and numbers, selecting fighters for the next round. When they reached the blue-skinned woman, one guard smirked. "Amara of House Vale, disgraced daughter of the Highland clans. Your family pays well to see you try to redeem yourself in the arena." He laughed, gesturing at the broken spear. "Though they seem to think you deserve only half a weapon." Amara's face remained impassive, but Elias noticed her grip tighten on the broken shaft. "And the Terran pilot," another guard continued, "put him with the disgraced one. He's untrained, should make for an amusing spectacle alongside the half-warrior." They were herded through a series of narrow tunnels, the roar of the crowd growing louder with each step. Other fighters followed, massive brutes with scarred bodies and eyes that had seen too many battles. Elias studied them, calculating his chances. Without proper weapons or knowledge of local fighting techniques, his odds were poor. He approached Amara, keeping his voice low. "I'm Elias. We should stick together if we want to survive." She glanced at him, evaluating. There is no together in the arena of fates. Only survivors and corpses. Despite her cold words, she moved closer, letting him see the broken spear. "This is the spear of shame. I failed my clan's blood mission. Now I must bear this broken weapon until I die with honor or redeem myself." Before Elias could respond, they emerged from the tunnel into blinding sunlight. The crowd's roar became deafening as they entered the vast arena, its sandy floor stained with old blood, its perimeter lined with gleaming spikes, and ornate viewing boxes filled with richly dressed spectators. A booming voice announced the combatants, the crowd jeering when Amara was introduced. The dishonored daughter of House Vale, bearing the broken spear. Would she reclaim her honor or die in disgrace? Elias barely heard his own introduction, his attention drawn to the weapons rack where other fighters were selecting blades, maces, and shields. He managed to grab a short sword just as a gong sounded, signaling the start of combat. Chaos erupted immediately. Unlike the organized duels Elias had imagined, this was a free-for-all. Every fighter for themselves in a brutal battle royale. He narrowly dodged an axe swing from a tusked warrior twice his size, using his agility to stay out of reach of the larger combatants. Across the arena, Amara fought with surprising effectiveness despite her broken weapon. She used the jagged end of her spear shaft to slash and stab, her movements quick and precise, clearly the product of years of training. But as Elias watched, 3 attackers coordinated their approach, surrounding her in a deadly triangle. Without thinking, Elias cut through the fray toward her. He reached her side just as the first attacker lunged, blocking a blow meant for Amara's back with his sword. The impact jarred his arm, nearly making him drop his weapon. "I didn't ask for your help," Amara hissed, parrying another attack. "You're welcome anyway," Elias replied, positioning himself back-to-back with her. They fought together for precious minutes, their movements gradually synchronizing as they defended each other. The crowd's mood shifted, murmurs rippling through the spectators at the unexpected alliance. That's when disaster struck. A massive fighter with metal plates grafted to his knuckles broke through their defense, landing a crushing blow to Amara's shoulder. She fell to one knee, her broken spear flying from her grasp. The attacker raised his weapon for a killing strike. Elias lunged forward, dropping his sword and diving for Amara's fallen spear. He seized the broken shaft and thrust it upward, catching the attacker's descending blade. The impact cracked the shaft further, but deflected the lethal blow. A collective gasp swept through the arena. Amara's eyes widened in shock, her expression a mixture of disbelief and horror. "What have you done?" she whispered. Before Elias could respond, a strange sensation swept through him, a tingling warmth that began where his hands gripped the spear and spread throughout his body. The spear's jagged end glinted with an unnatural light for just a moment. Guards rushed into the arena, weapons drawn. The combat halted abruptly as the arena master stood from his elevated seat, pointing his ceremonial staff toward Elias and Amara. "Halt the contest," he commanded. "The ancient law has been invoked." Confusion spread among the spectators. The guards surrounded Elias and Amara, separating them from the other fighters. "What's happening?" Elias demanded as they were marched away from the main arena. Amara's voice was hollow. "You raised my broken spear to protect me. According to the sacred laws of my people, you have become my blood oath warrior, my chosen one." She met his eyes, her own filled with a mixture of awe and regret. "Our fates are now bound. Your life is tied to mine, mine to yours." "That's ridiculous," Elias protested as they were pushed into a stone chamber beneath the arena. "I just grabbed the closest weapon." "Intentions matter not to the blood oath," Amara replied, watching as the guards locked the heavy door, leaving them alone in the dimly lit room. "The ancient magic cares only for actions. You are now bound to me until death or the fulfillment of my blood debt." Elias paced the small chamber, trying to process this information. "So because I picked up a stick, we're magically connected?" "That's not just any stick," Amara interrupted, her voice sharp with pride despite their circumstances. "The broken spear is a sacred symbol of my clan. It represents unfulfilled duty, a debt of honor that must be paid. By raising it in my defense, you have claimed responsibility for that debt." She studied him with new intensity. "The question is, why would the spirits choose an outsider as my oath warrior?" Elias ran a hand through his short dark hair. "There are no spirits, just a primitive superstition that's apparently taken very seriously around here." Amara's expression hardened. "Mock our ways if you must, but the bond is real. You'll feel it soon enough." She sat on the stone bench along one wall. "The council will decide our fate. They cannot execute us immediately. The blood oath is sacred even to those who have corrupted our traditions. But they will find a suitable punishment for both of us." "Great," Elias muttered. "I survive a crash landing only to be executed for picking up the wrong weapon." "If it helps," Amara said without humor, "I did not want this either. You have bound yourself to a disgraced warrior with a death sentence." Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by distant sounds of the arena above and the occasional shuffle of guard patrols outside their door. Elias tried to formulate an escape plan, but without knowledge of the facility's layout, his options were limited. As night fell, bringing a slight chill to their stone chamber, Amara finally spoke again. "They will come for us soon. The 3-day festival concludes tomorrow with the honor duels. I suspect they will make a spectacle of our execution." Elias had been examining the door's hinges. Then we need to be gone before morning. He turned to her. Tell me about this blood oath. What exactly does it mean that our fates are bound? Amara hesitated, then seemed to decide that sharing information might be beneficial. The blood oath is the oldest tradition of my people. When a warrior fails in their sacred duty, they carry the broken spear as a symbol of their shame. If another warrior raises that spear in their defense, not to attack, but specifically to shield them, they become oath-bound. She continued, her voice taking on a ritual cadence. The chosen one cannot abandon the spear-bearer. Distance brings pain. Separation beyond certain limits brings debilitating weakness. If one dies, the other spirit is claimed by the ancestors as well. So we're literally stuck together, Elias concluded grimly. And I can't just leave you here and escape on my own. No more than I could leave you. Amara stood, approaching him. The oath goes both ways. I am as bound to you as you are to me. Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of approaching footsteps. Elias quickly moved away from the door, gesturing for Amara to follow his lead. The door creaked open, revealing not guards but a stooped elderly man in simple robes. He glanced nervously over his shoulder before slipping inside. Turek, Amara whispered in recognition. Why are you here? The old man bowed slightly. I serve the true ways, not these corrupt lords. He handed Amara a small leather pouch. Inside you'll find the key to the Western Service Tunnel and a map marking the patrol schedules. His roomy eyes turned to Elias. So this is the Starborn Chosen One? The rumors spread quickly. I'm not chosen anything, Elias objected. I'm a pilot who had the bad luck to crash on this backward planet. Turek chuckled. The ancestors choose who they will, regardless of belief. He turned back to Amara. The blood oath has not been invoked in 3 generations. That it happens now with an outsider during these troubled times. Many see it as an omen. An omen of what? Elias asked despite himself. Change, the old man replied simply. Now listen carefully. There is unrest brewing among the lower clans. A group of rebels will create a distraction at midnight, a fire in the eastern storage chambers. Guards will be drawn there. That is your chance to escape. He grasped Amara's hand. Find your way to the Shrine of Ancestors in the Red Canyon. The true elders gather there. They will know what to make of this outsider who bears your oath. With one last meaningful glance at both of them, Turek slipped out as quietly as he had entered. Can we trust him? Elias asked immediately. Amara opened the pouch, examining its contents. Turek was my father's advisor before our house fell from favor. If anyone remains loyal to us, it would be him. She withdrew a crude map etched on thin leather and a metal key. This seems genuine. Then we wait for midnight, Elias decided. As the hours crawled by, Elias felt an odd sensation taking root within him. Awareness of Amara's presence that hadn't existed before. When she moved to the far side of the cell, he felt a subtle tug, as if an invisible thread connected them. He said nothing, unwilling to admit that perhaps there was truth to her talk of mystical bonds. When the distant temple bells tolled midnight, they heard shouts and the pounding of boots, guards rushing towards some emergency. Amara met Elias's eyes and nodded. It was time. The key worked, unlocking their cell with a soft click. Using Turek's map, they navigated the labyrinthine passages beneath the arena, avoiding the few guards who remained at their posts. They acquired additional weapons from an unattended storage room, a proper spear for Amara, though she insisted on keeping the broken one tied to her back, and a more balanced sword for Elias. Their escape route led them through ancient tunnels that predated the arena itself, narrow passages with walls covered in faded pictographs depicting warriors and strange celestial events. Twice they were forced to hide as patrols passed, pressed together in shadow niches, holding their breath. The tunnel eventually opened into a wider chamber where they encountered unexpected allies, 3 other escaped prisoners waiting in the darkness, led by a towering warrior with tribal markings similar to Amara's. Vorik, Amara greeted him cautiously. I didn't expect to find House Caden aiding my escape. The large man grunted. Times change. The old rivalries mean little when we all suffer under the arena lords. His gaze shifted to Elias. So this is the off-worlder who invoked the blood oath. Smaller than the legends would suggest. The legends had about 2 hours to develop, Elias replied dryly. Give them time. A warning call from one of Vorik's companions cut their introduction short. Guard approaching. They've discovered the empty cells. This way, Vorik led them through a concealed door into what appeared to be an ancient sewer system. These channels lead beyond the city walls, but we must hurry. They splashed through shallow, foul-smelling water, the sounds of pursuit growing louder behind them. When they reached a junction where the passage split 3 ways, Vorik pointed to the right-hand tunnel. That path leads to the desert edge. From there, head east toward the Red Canyon. He handed Amara a small water skin. This is all we can spare. You're not coming with us? She asked. Vorik shook his head. My people have their own sanctuary in the western foothills. Besides, he added with a grim smile, too many together make an easier target. He clasped forearms with Amara in a warrior salute. May the ancestors guide your path, daughter of Vale. With a final nod to Elias, Vorik and his companions took the left passage, disappearing into the darkness. Elias and Amara continued through their assigned tunnel, eventually emerging from a rusted grate into the cool night air of Zila Prime's desert outskirts. The twin moons illuminated rolling dunes that stretched to the horizon, punctuated by jagged rock formations. We need to put as much distance between us and the city as possible before dawn, Amara said, orienting herself by the stars. The desert is deadly under the twin suns. They set off at a brisk pace, the city's lights receding behind them as they ventured into the wilderness. Neither spoke much, conserving energy and focusing on the difficult terrain. By the time the first hints of dawn colored the eastern sky, they had reached a cluster of wind-carved rock formations that offered some shelter from the coming heat. We'll rest here during the hottest hours, Amara decided, leading Elias into a narrow crevice between towering stones. Only fools and sand serpents travel under the midday suns. As they settled into their temporary refuge, Elias finally voiced the question that had been bothering him since their escape. Your people seem divided. Who exactly are we running from? And who are we running to? Amara unwrapped a small bundle of dried meat, a provision Turek had included in their escape package. She broke it in half, offering a portion to Elias. The divisions began generations ago, she explained as they ate. My people, the Highland clans, once ruled much of this region through a council of elders guided by ancestral wisdom. We lived by the old codes, honor, duty, the sacred traditions. She gestured to the broken spear still strapped to her back. The blood oath was one such tradition, a way to bind warriors to noble purposes. She paused, her expression darkening. Then came the off-world traders with their technology and promises. Some clans embraced these changes, saw opportunity for wealth and power. They formed alliances with the traders, abandoned the old ways. Over time, they became the arena lords, using our sacred combat traditions as entertainment, enslaving those who opposed them. And your family stood against them? Elias guessed. House Vale remained loyal to the old ways, Amara confirmed. My father led the resistance until... She looked away. Until he was accused of treason against the new order. My family's lands were seized, our status stripped. I was sent to the arena to redeem our name through combat, a mockery of our traditions. So the people we're seeking, these true elders of the Red Canyon, they're what remains of the resistance. Amara nodded. The last keepers of our true culture. If anyone can interpret the meaning of an outsider becoming my oath warrior, it would be them. She studied him with renewed curiosity. What of you? What brought a Terran pilot to our world? Elias leaned back against the cool stone wall. Exploration mission. The Terran Consortium is mapping this sector, establishing diplomatic relations where possible. He smiled grimly. I was supposed to make first contact with your planet's leadership, assess the potential for trade agreements. Instead, I hit some kind of electromagnetic disturbance in your upper atmosphere. Systems failed, ship crashed. Next thing I knew, I was being sold to the arena. The barrier fields, Amara murmured. Ancient defenses from the First Age. They disrupt outside technologies. One reason our world has remained relatively isolated. They fell silent as the heat of the day intensified, turning their rocky shelter into an oven. Despite the discomfort, exhaustion eventually pulled them into uneasy sleep. Elias dreamed of flying, not in his ship but soaring on great wings over an unfamiliar landscape. Below him, armies clashed around a towering spire of stone. A broken spear gleamed at the spire's peak, emitting pulses of light that rippled across the battlefield. He woke with a start to find Amara staring at him intently. "You were speaking in your sleep," she said, in the old tongue. "That's impossible," Elias replied, disoriented. "I don't know your language. Yet you spoke it." She offered him water from their meager supply. The bond grows stronger. The suns had begun their descent, casting long shadows across the desert. They emerged from their shelter and continued their journey eastward, toward where Amara claimed the Red Canyon lay. The harsh landscape challenged them at every step. Heat shimmers distorted the horizon, making it difficult to maintain their bearing. Twice they encountered sand serpents, sinuous predators with crystalline scales that blended perfectly with the terrain until they moved. Amara's combat training proved valuable, as she dispatched the creatures with precise spear thrusts. "At least we won't go hungry," she remarked, skillfully preparing the serpent meat for travel. "Their flesh is tough but nourishing." As they made camp that night in the lee of a dune, Elias noticed Amara wincing as she stretched her shoulder, the same one injured in the arena. "Let me see," he offered, moving closer. She hesitated, then nodded, allowing him to examine the injury. The bruise had spread, dark purple against her blue skin. "On my world, we have regeneration therapy for this," Elias said, gently probing the swollen area. "Here, I can at least bind it properly." He tore a strip from his already damaged uniform to create a supportive wrap. As his fingers worked, Amara studied his face in the moonlight. "Your world must be very different from ours." "In some ways," Elias acknowledged. "We have more technology, larger settlements. But people remain people, with the same capacity for honor and corruption you describe here." "And do your people have bonds like our blood oath?" she asked, a rare hint of genuine curiosity in her voice. Elias considered. "Not mystical ones, but we form connections, promises, vows, oaths of service. My oath to the Exploration Corps meant I would protect those under my care, even at cost to myself." He secured the final knot on her bandage. "Not so different in principle, perhaps." Amara tested her shoulder, nodding in satisfaction at the improved support. "Perhaps not." The next morning brought a new threat. Dust clouds on the horizon, moving too purposefully to be natural formations. Sand skimmers. Amara identified them grimly. Arena hunters. They increased their pace, pushing toward a distant ridge of red-hued stone that had appeared on the horizon, the edge of the canyon they sought. But the skimmers were faster, closing the distance with alarming speed. "We won't outrun them," Elias assessed, scanning their surroundings for defensive options. "Then we fight," Amara replied, readying her spear. The first skimmer crested a nearby dune, a sleek craft designed for desert travel, piloted by a masked figure in the armor of the arena guards. Two more appeared behind it, their engines humming ominously as they encircled the fugitives. 6 hunters dismounted, weapons drawn. Their leader stepped forward, removing his mask to reveal a scarred face with calculating eyes. "The disgraced daughter of House Vale and her off-world champion," he announced. "The arena lord offers a substantial reward for your return." "Alive, I hope," Elias replied, adjusting his grip on his sword. "Otherwise, this conversation is pointless." The hunter smiled coldly. "Alive, yes," though intact was not specified. They attacked in coordinated pairs, clearly experienced in capturing fugitives. Elias and Amara fought back-to-back, their movements synchronizing with uncanny precision. The blood oath bond seemed to heighten their awareness of each other. Elias found himself instinctively covering Amara's injured side, while she parried blows aimed at his less protected flank. They managed to disable 3 of their attackers, but the remaining hunters pressed their advantage. A weighted net entangled Amara's legs, sending her crashing to the sand. As a hunter moved to subdue her, Elias felt a surge of protective rage that seemed to originate from somewhere beyond his conscious mind. He leapt forward with impossible speed, his blade finding gaps in the hunter's armor that he couldn't possibly have known existed. The hunter fell, but in that moment of distraction, the leader struck. A paralyzing pulse from his staff caught Elias in the back, sending him to his knees. As darkness clouded his vision, he saw Amara struggling against her captors, calling his name. Consciousness returned in fragments. Elias was being dragged across sand, his arms bound behind him. Nearby, Amara was similarly restrained, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. They had been captured, but before the hunters could secure them to the skimmers, the ground beneath them trembled. A low rumble grew to a roar as the sand itself seemed to come alive, rising in a massive wave that engulfed the nearest skimmer. From the churning sand emerged massive creatures, serpentine forms twice the size of the skimmers themselves, with armored segments and multiple crystalline eyes. The great sand WIRMS of Zila Prime, drawn by the vibrations of the skimmers. Chaos erupted as the hunters scrambled to defend themselves. One WIRM crashed directly into a skimmer, sending hunters flying. In the confusion, Elias managed to roll away from his captor, using a jagged stone to saw at his bonds. He freed himself just as the hunter leader noticed his escape. The man charged, staff raised for a killing blow. Elias dodged, but his legs were still weak from the paralyzing pulse. He stumbled, falling backward, directly into the path of a descending WIRM. Elias. Amara's voice cut through the chaos. Somehow she had freed herself and now stood, arm outstretched toward him, the broken spear in her hand. Without thinking, Elias reached for it, their fingers connecting on the ancient shaft just as the WRM's massive body crashed down. A flash of blue-white light erupted where their hands met on the spear. The energy expanded outward in a concussive wave that sent sand billowing in all directions. When the dust settled, Elias found himself in a perfect circle of cleared ground. Amara beside him. The WIRM diverted from its path as if pushed by an invisible force. The remaining hunters fled in terror, abandoning their injured comrades and their mission. The WIRMS, perhaps equally startled by the energy discharge, retreated beneath the sands. Elias stared at the broken spear, still clutched in their joined hands. What just happened? Amara's expression was a mixture of awe and confusion. The spear has never. I've never heard of the blood oath manifesting such power. They had little time to contemplate this development. With the hunters temporarily driven off, but surely regrouping, they needed to reach the Red Canyon before nightfall. They salvaged supplies from the abandoned skimmers, water, food, medical supplies, and a directional compass that helped confirm their path. By sunset, they stood at the edge of a vast redstone canyon that cut through the desert like an ancient wound. Winding paths descended to its floor, where glimpses of green vegetation suggested water sources. Carved into the far wall, barely visible in the fading light, stood structures too regular to be natural. The hidden shrine Turek had mentioned. The descent was treacherous in the growing darkness, but they dared not wait until morning when they might be spotted from above. They picked their way down narrow paths, supporting each other on the steepest sections, the bond between them seeming to strengthen with each challenge overcome. Near the canyon floor, they were met by silent figures who emerged from the shadows. Warriors in traditional garb similar to Amara's, wielding spears and bows. These sentinels escorted them without a word, leading them along hidden paths to the cliff dwellings. The Shrine of Ancestors proved to be a complex of chambers carved directly into the canyon wall, illuminated by bioluminescent lichens that cast an ethereal blue glow over ancient carvings. They were brought to a central chamber where several elderly men and women sat in a semicircle, their their faces lined with age, but their eyes sharp with intelligence. Amara knelt respectfully, motioning for Elias to do the same. Honored elders, I am Amara of House Vale. This is Elias Corvin, a star traveler who has become my blood oath warrior. The eldest among them, a woman whose white hair was elaborately braided with tokens of bone and metal, leaned forward. We know who you are, daughter of Vale. Word travels even to these hidden places. Her gaze shifted to Elias, studying him with unnerving intensity. What we did not expect was the fulfillment of prophecy in our lifetime. Prophecy, Elias echoed, immediately skeptical. Another elder spoke, his voice deep despite his frail appearance. The scrolls of the First Age speak of a time when the broken spear would be raised by one knot of our blood, heralding great change for our people. With respect, Elias replied carefully, I picked up a weapon to help someone in danger. That's not prophecy, it's basic decency. Several elders exchanged meaningful glances. The white-haired woman, clearly their leader, nodded to an attendant who brought forward an ancient scroll case. From it, she withdrew a brittle document covered in symbols similar to those Elias had observed in the tunnels beneath the arena. These writings date from the founding of our clans, she explained. They tell the first bond, when the ancestors gifted the blood oath to bind warriors to noble purpose. She indicated one section of intricate pictographs. Here it describes a time of corruption when the sacred traditions would be twisted to serve power. And here, her gnarled finger traced a series of symbols showing a broken spear and what appear to be stars. It speaks of renewal through the star-born chosen one. Elias shifted uncomfortably. I'm not some mythical figure. I'm a pilot who crashed on your world and got caught up in local politics. Perhaps, the elder conceded, but intention matters less than outcome. The blood oath has bound you to Amara, and through her, to our people's future. She turned to Amara. Show us the spear that carries the bond. Amara unwrapped the broken spear from its bindings on her back. In the bioluminescent light, Elias noticed details he'd missed before. Intricate etchings along its shaft, small crystalline fragments embedded in the wood near the break point. The elders leaned forward in collective interest. The male elder who had spoken earlier reached out, his fingers hovering just above the weapon without touching it. The resonance is strong, he murmured. Stronger than any blood bond in living memory. He looked up at them. You have already manifested its power, have you not? Amara described the incident with the sand WRMS, the flash of energy that had saved them when they both held the spear. As she spoke, Elias noticed the elders exchanging increasingly meaningful glances. When she finished, the white-haired leader stood, her slight frame belying the authority in her bearing. You must rest tonight. Tomorrow, we will guide you to the temple of the first spear. There, perhaps, you'll understand your purpose. They were led to separate sleeping chambers carved into the rock, provided with clean water for washing and simple but nourishing food. Despite his exhaustion, Elias found sleep elusive. The talk of prophecies and chosen ones troubled him. He had seen how easily such beliefs could be manipulated by those seeking power. More unsettling was his growing awareness of the bond with Amara. Even with stone walls between them, he could sense her presence, could almost feel the rhythm of her breathing. When he finally drifted to sleep, his dreams were filled with unfamiliar landscapes and battles fought with weapons he had never held. Morning brought new clarity to the canyon, revealing its true scope and beauty. Lush gardens thrived along the canyon floor, irrigated by a system of channels that carried water from hidden springs. The cliff dwellings extended further than Elias had realized, housing perhaps hundreds of people, the last free clans of Zila Prime. Amara met him at breakfast, looking somewhat refreshed despite the gravity of their situation. The elders are preparing for our journey to the temple, she informed him. It is a sacred site rarely visited. And what exactly do they expect to happen there? Elias asked. I don't know, she admitted. The temple predates even our oldest records. It's said to be the place where the first blood oath was sworn. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a young warrior who introduced himself as their guide. They set out immediately, following a hidden trail that wound deeper into the canyon system, eventually entering a narrow side ravine where the red stone gave way to strange, glassy formations that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Vitrified sand, their guide explained, from the Great Burning in the First Age. Our legends say the ancestors harnessed the power of the stars themselves, but at great cost. The path led to an immense stone doorway, set directly into the canyon wall, its surface unmarked by time despite its obvious antiquity. No handles or mechanisms were visible, yet as they approached, a thin line of blue light appeared along its seam. Their guide stopped. Only those carrying a bond may enter the temple. I will wait here. Amara stepped forward confidently, the broken spear in her hand. Elias followed with more hesitation. As they neared the doorway, the line of light expanded, the massive stone slab sliding silently inward to reveal a corridor that seemed to glow from within. They entered cautiously. The door closed behind them with finality, leaving them in a space illuminated by the same bioluminescence they had seen in the Elder Shrine, but far more intense. The corridor extended before them, its walls covered in elaborate murals depicting what appeared to be the history of Amara's people. These show the First Age, Amara whispered, her voice filled with awe as she studied the images. When our ancestors came to this world and established the clans. Elias examined the murals with growing surprise. They clearly depicted spacecraft, advanced technology, and a civilization far beyond the current state of Zila Prime. One panel showed figures in what appeared to be environmental suits establishing biodomes. Another depicted a catastrophic event. Energy weapons firing from orbit, landscapes transforming into the glass-like material they had observed outside. Your ancestors weren't primitive warriors, Elias said slowly. They were space colonists with advanced technology. Amara traced the images with reverent fingers. The old stories speak of a time when our people commanded the stars. Then came the Great Burning, when enemies from beyond brought destruction. She moved to another panel, showing survivors gathering around a central figure who held aloft a gleaming spear. The first elder united the remaining clans, establishing the blood oath as a means to bind warriors to protect what remained of our knowledge and heritage. The corridor opened into a vast circular chamber whose ceiling arched so high it was lost in shadow. At the center stood a raised dais of obsidian-like material, and upon it, a pedestal holding what appeared to be the upper portion of a spear, the missing tip of Amara's broken weapon. As they approached the dais, the air seemed to thicken with energy. The broken shaft in Amara's hand began to vibrate subtly, the embedded crystals glowing with increasing intensity. The first spear, she whispered in awe. I never truly believed it existed. What's happening? Elias asked, feeling the strange resonance building between the spear fragment Amara held and its counterpart on the pedestal. Before she could answer, the chamber flooded with blinding light. From the pedestal, a holographic projection materialized, a figure in ornate armor similar to the one depicted in the murals as the First Elder. Descendants. The figure spoke in a language that Elias somehow understood despite never having learned it. If you stand before the sacred fragment, you have invoked the blood oath in a time of great need. Amara fell to her knees, overcome by the unexpected manifestation. Elias remained standing, transfixed by the technological nature of this supposedly mystical sight. The oath was created not from superstition but necessity. The hologram continued. When our colony faced extinction, we encoded our genetic legacy within the crystalline matrices of the first spear. The blood oath is no mere tradition. It is a quantum entanglement protocol designed to link compatible genetic patterns, enhancing neural synchronization and unlocking dormant abilities in our descendants. The holographic figure gestured, causing the chamber around them to transform into a three-dimensional star map. We came to Zila Prime to escape conflicts that devastated our original homeworlds. We brought knowledge that, if misused, could repeat those catastrophes. The Oath-Bearers were tasked with protecting both our people and this knowledge until we were ready to reclaim our place among the stars. The projection shifted to show familiar scenes. The arena, the canyon settlement, the corrupt lords ruling from their technological strongholds. But I see our descendants have lost their way. The sacred bond has become a tool of subjugation rather than protection. The hologram focused its attention on Elias. And you, not of our bloodline, yet compatible with the bond. Your presence fulfills the contingency protocol. When the blood becomes too diluted or corrupted, seek new strength from beyond. Amara finally found her voice. Are you saying the ancestors planned for an outsider to join with one of our warriors? We planned for adaptation and survival, the hologram replied. The blood oath seeks worthy bearers when needed. Your combined genetic patterns have activated potentials dormant for generations. The spectral figure raised its hand, causing the spear fragment on the pedestal to levitate. If you choose to embrace the full bond, approach together and claim the first fragment. United, the broken spear will become whole again, as will your connection to the ancestral knowledge it contains. Elias hesitated, looking to Amara. This isn't some mystical destiny. It's advanced technology left by your spacefaring ancestors, programmed to find compatible users. Despite his rational explanation, he couldn't deny the pull he felt toward the floating fragment, a sensation that seemed to originate from the bond itself. Amara stood, her expression resolute. Whether we call it magic or technology matters little. My people suffer under corrupt rulers who have twisted our traditions. If the blood oath can help us restore balance, I choose to embrace it. She held out her hand to him, but the choice must be mutual. The bond cannot be forced. Elias considered his options. His mission had been to establish contact with this world, to bring it into peaceful relations with the Terran Consortium. Instead, he had stumbled into an ancient legacy and a struggle for a planet's future. Whatever this technology was, it clearly surpassed even his own society's understanding. If I refuse, he asked the hologram, then the bond remains incomplete, a tether rather than a strength. You will remain connected to the oath-bearer, but without access to the ancestral knowledge or enhanced abilities. The choice must be freely made. Elias took a deep breath, then placed his hand in Amara's. I didn't come to this world to run away from responsibility. If this helps end the oppression of your people, I'm in. Together, they approached the dais. As they neared the hovering spear tip, Amara raised the broken shaft. The two pieces trembled in proximity, then flew together with magnetic force. A brilliant flash enveloped the chamber as the spear became whole again, the crystalline fragments along its length pulsing with inner light. The reconnection sent a shock wave through both of them. Not painful, but overwhelming, like diving into an ocean of information and sensation. Elias gasped as knowledge flooded his consciousness. Combat techniques he'd never learned, star maps of sectors he'd never visited, the history of a civilization spanning thousands of years. When the light faded, the hologram was gone, but the restored spear remained in their joined hands, its surface now covered with glowing circuit-like patterns that faded slowly into the material. Did you feel that? Amara asked, her voice trembling with emotion. The ancestors' knowledge. I felt it, Elias confirmed, still processing the vast download of information. He released the spear to Amara's grip, noticing that the separation no longer created the pulling sensation he had experienced before. The bond feels different now, stronger but less constraining. We are truly Blood Oath warriors now, Amara said, testing the balance of the restored weapon. The choice has been made. As if responding to her words, a new doorway appeared in the chamber wall, an exit different from where they had entered. They followed this new path, which led them upward through the canyon rock via a series of smoothly carved tunnels. Eventually, they emerged onto a high ledge overlooking the desert they had crossed, and in the distance, the city with its arena. Their guide was nowhere to be seen, but they were not alone. Waiting on the ledge was a small group of warriors led by a tall, imposing figure whose elaborate armor and facial markings identified him as a clan leader. Castiel, Amara breathed, tensing visibly. The warrior stepped forward, his calculating gaze taking in the restored spear and their altered demeanor. Amara of House Vale. When we heard rumors of the blood oath being invoked with an outsider, I hardly believed it. His eyes narrowed. Yet here you stand with the very proof, the spear made whole again. Castiel of House Caden. Amara replied formally. Last I knew, your house served the arena lords. Why are you here in sacred lands? Not all who appear to serve are truly loyal, Castiel replied cryptically. House Caden has played a dangerous game, maintaining the appearance of allegiance while working toward the day of reckoning. He gestured toward the restored spear. A day that seems closer now. Elias studied the man, accessing the new knowledge within him to read the subtle cues of Zealand body language and cultural markers. You're leading a resistance, he concluded. Castiel inclined his head slightly. For 3 generations, we have gathered strength, waiting for the sign that the time had come to strike against those who corrupted our ways. His gaze lingered on the spear. The prophecy spoke of the broken spear, made whole by the Starborn. It seems the sign has arrived. He turned back to Amara. The question remains, will House Vale stand with us? Your family's disgrace was engineered by the arena lords when your father refused to betray our cause. Now you can restore your house's honor by joining the uprising. Amara's expression revealed her shock at learning her family had been part of the resistance all along. My father never told me. To protect you, Castiel explained. If captured, you could not reveal what you did not know. He extended his hand to her. Now I offer you the truth and a chance for justice. Come with us to our camp. The united clans prepare to march on the city during the final day of the festival, when the arena lords will be distracted by their celebrations. Amara hesitated, looking to Elias. Though their bond had evolved beyond the initial constraint, she clearly valued his input. Elias considered what he had learned in the temple. The technology your ancestors left behind. It was meant to preserve knowledge and protect your people, not to enforce outdated traditions or enable tyranny. He nodded toward Castiel. If his cause aims to restore that original purpose, it aligns with what we just learned. Amara made her decision. We will hear your plans, Castiel. But understand this. I fight for the true ways of our ancestors, not for any house's political advantage. Castiel accepted her terms with a warrior salute. The camp is a half-day's journey through the canyon system. We must move quickly. Arena scouts patrol the outer reaches as they search for you. As they prepared to depart, Elias noticed Amara testing the restored spear's balance, familiarity flowing into her movements as she accessed the ancestral knowledge now available to her. Similarly, he found himself instinctively understanding terrain features and defensive positions that would have been foreign to him days ago. The genetic memory transfer is impressive, he commented quietly to her. Your ancestors essentially created a biological data storage and transmission system using crystalline matrices embedded in the spear. Amara smiled, the first genuine smile he had seen from her. You still seek to explain everything through your science. Perhaps some mysteries are better left as mysteries, says the descendant of space colonists who mastered interstellar travel. Elias replied with a matching smile. Their journey through the canyon revealed the full extent of the resistance. Hidden camps nestled inside ravines housed warriors from various clans, all bearing markings that identified their house allegiances. What had seemed like scattered rebel groups was in fact an organized force numbering in the hundreds. At the main encampment, they found representatives from 12 different houses, each bringing unique skills and resources to the cause. Engineers maintained repurposed technology salvaged from ancient caches. Healers tended to wounded fighters recently escaped from the arenas. Scouts reported on arena lord troop movements throughout the region. Castiel led them to the command tent where a detailed holographic map of the city and surrounding territories hovered above a central table. Evidence that the resistance had access to some ancestral technology of their own. Tomorrow marks the final day of the festival, Castiel explained, manipulating the map to to highlight the arena and the governmental complex adjoining it. All 12 arena lords will be present for the honor duels. Security will be focused on the arena itself, leaving other vital infrastructure vulnerable. He outlined a resistance plan: simultaneous strikes against power generators, communication hubs, and transport nodes, followed by a main assault force that would breach the arena during the height of the celebrations. The goal was not wholesale slaughter, but the surgical removal of the corrupt leadership and liberation of the enslaved fighters. Throughout the briefing, Elias found himself contributing tactical analyses drawn from the ancestral knowledge now accessible to him, identifying weaknesses in defense systems and suggesting refinements to the attack plan. Amara similarly offered insights on arena protocols and guard rotations, her previous experience as a captive fighter proving invaluable. As the meeting concluded, Castiel addressed them directly. The appearance of Oath Warriors during this critical moment cannot be coincidence. The prophecy speaks of the chosen one who would unite our fragmented people. He bowed his head slightly toward them. If you are willing, we would have you lead the arena breach. Your presence would rally those fighters who still honor the old ways. It's a powerful symbol, Amara acknowledged, but symbols alone won't win this battle. No, Castiel agreed, but they can inspire courage in those who might otherwise hesitate. He fixed his gaze on Elias, particularly when the symbol is so unexpected. An outsider who has embraced our ways and carries our ancestral power. It fulfills the prophecy in a way none could have anticipated. After Castiel departed to oversee final preparations, Elias and Amara found themselves alone in a small alcove overlooking the resistance camp. The twin moons of Zila Prime cast different colored lights across the landscape, one silver, one with a reddish tinge, creating complex shadows among the canyon walls. Everything has happened so quickly, Amara said, watching the activity below. 3 days ago, I was a disgraced warrior awaiting death in the arena. Now I carry the restored first spear and prepare to lead an uprising. She turned to Elias. And you, torn from your world, bound to mine through ancient technology disguised as mysticism, do you regret picking up my broken spear? Elias considered the question seriously. I regret crashing on your planet, he answered with dry humor. I regret being sold into slavery. I regret not having a proper meal in days. His expression softened. But helping someone who needed it, standing against oppression, discovering an ancient legacy that connects advanced past to possible future? No, I don't regret those things. Even though you may never return to your world, she pressed. If we succeed tomorrow, we'll have access to ancestral technology that may well include interstellar communication capabilities, Elias replied pragmatically. And if not, he shrugged. My mission was to establish contact with your world. I'd say I've done that more thoroughly than anyone could have expected. Amara laughed, a sound so unexpected that it momentarily silenced the nearby camp. You face exile from everything you've known, and you call it thorough contact. She shook her head in wonder. Perhaps the ancestors chose well after all. As night deepened, they joined the resistance fighters in a solemn meal that carried undertones of pre-battle ritual. Warriors sharpened weapons and painted battle markings on each other's skin. Elders moved among the groups, offering blessings and reciting traditional verses meant to focus the mind and strengthen resolve. One elderly woman approached Elias and Amara, carrying small bowls of deep blue pigment. For the Oath Warriors, she explained, dipping her gnarled finger into the mixture. The marks of a chosen. With practiced precision, she drew intricate patterns on their foreheads and cheeks, symbols that Elias now recognized as representing unity, strength, and ancestral blessing. As the pigment dried, it began to emit a subtle glow visible only in complete darkness. Another example of ancient technology, preserved through ritual. That night, as they rested in preparation for the coming battle, Elias experienced another shared dream, more vivid than before. He saw through the eyes of the first elder as they established the blood oath tradition, witnessed the gradual corruption of those ideals as generations passed and technology failed, felt the hope invested in the contingency plan that would someday restore balance. He woke at dawn with renewed purpose, finding Amara already awake and similarly affected by the shared vision. "They knew," she said simply. "The ancestors knew their descendants might lose their way. Everything, the rituals, the traditions, the prophecies, it was all designed to preserve essential knowledge until the right moment for its return." A 10,000-year backup plan, Elias agreed. Impressive foresight. The resistance camp transformed into a staging area as the morning progressed. Warriors donned traditional battle garb enhanced with recovered ancestral technology, armor that appeared ceremonial but contained energy-dispersing materials, weapons that combined ancient designs with advanced principles. Castiel presented them with similar equipment, combat suits that adapted to their movements and enhanced their natural abilities. For Amara, a mount point that allowed the first spear to be worn across her back while keeping its energy matrix accessible. By midday, the force was ready. They moved out in small groups to avoid detection, following hidden paths through the canyon system toward predetermined convergence points outside the city. Elias and Amara traveled with a core assault team, 20 elite warriors who would spearhead the arena breach. As they neared the city outskirts, evidence of the festival's final day was apparent. Decorative banners hung from buildings, music and crowd noise carried on the wind, and increased security patrols circled the perimeter. Using the Resistance's intelligence on patrol schedules, they slipped through gaps in the coverage, infiltrating the lower city district that housed arena workers and support staff. Here they encountered the first phase of the Resistance plan already in motion. Sleeper agents who had worked as servants and laborers for years were quietly neutralizing key security positions and disabling surveillance systems. These agents greeted Amara and Elias with reverent awe, word of the Oath Warriors having spread through hidden communication channels. "The main power distribution node has been compromised," one agent reported, leading them through service tunnels that ran beneath the arena complex. "On signal, we can cut power to all but the emergency systems." Their path brought them to a vast underground chamber directly beneath the arena floor, the same holding area where Elias had first awakened days earlier. Now, they approached it as liberators rather than captives. Current fighters were already in the arena for the day's events, but the cells held hundreds more waiting their turn or recovering from previous bouts. Castiel consulted a hidden communicator. "All teams report ready. We await only the appearance of all 12 arena lords in the royal viewing box." He turned to Elias and Amara. "The moment approaches. Are you prepared to fulfill your role in the prophecy?" Amara withdrew the first spear from its mount, its crystalline components glowing with internal energy. "Not for prophecy," she replied firmly. "For justice." Elias felt the connection between them strengthen as they prepared for battle, the bond now a source of shared strength rather than constraint. Through it, he sensed her determination, her hope, and beneath it all, a current of uncertainty, not about their cause, but about what would follow victory. "Whatever comes after," he said quietly, "we face it together. By choice, not just by oath." Her golden eyes met his, understanding passing between them without need for further words. The signal came moments later, a subtle vibration through the floor as power stations throughout the city were simultaneously compromised. Emergency lighting activated in the underground complex as the main power grid failed. Above, they could hear the confused roar of the crowd as arena displays and environmental controls faltered. "Now," Castiel commanded, signaling his warriors to unlock the holding cells. As confused prisoners emerged, Amara stepped forward, raising the glowing first spear. "Warriors of Zelaprime, the day of liberation has come. Those who would fight for true freedom, stand with us now." Her voice, enhanced by some property of the spear itself, carried throughout the complex. Elias felt the ancestral knowledge surge within him, guiding his words as he joined her. The blood oath was never meant to enslave, but to protect. Today we reclaim its true purpose, Many prisoners hesitated, years of oppression having crushed their spirit of resistance. Others immediately grabbed improvised weapons, ready to fight for freedom. As the resistance warriors distributed proper arms from hidden caches, momentum began to build. Castiel directed teams to secure exit routes and strategic positions, while Amara and Elias prepared to lead the main force upward into the arena itself. According to the plan, they would emerge during the pinnacle event, the champions' duel that traditionally closed the festival, when all attention would be focused on the center of the arena. They ascended through access tunnels, the sounds of chaos growing louder as they neared the surface. The Resistance's diversionary attacks throughout the city had drawn many guards away from the arena, but those who remained were elite fighters dedicated to protecting the arena lords. When they reached the final barrier, a reinforced gate separating the access tunnel from the arena proper, Amara and Elias positioned themselves at the front of their force. Through small viewports, they could see the champions' duel already in progress. Two massive fighters battling before the enthusiastic crowd, while 12 robed figures watched from an elevated platform. The arena lords, Castiel confirmed, pointing to the viewing box. All present, as expected for the final ceremony. Amara raised the first spear, its energies now fully activated, glowing with intense blue-white light that illuminated the narrow tunnel. "On my mark," she commanded. Elias placed his hand alongside hers on the spear's shaft, their combined touch amplifying its power. The ancestral knowledge surged stronger than ever, bringing clarity and purpose that transcended language. "Now," they commanded in unison. The gate exploded outward with concussive force as the spear released a focused energy pulse. Their combined force charged through the opening, erupting onto the arena floor in a tide of determined warriors. The dueling champions froze in confusion, the crowd's cheers transforming into shouts of alarm. In the royal viewing box, the arena lords rose in unified outrage, guards rushing to form a protective cordon around them. One lord, distinguished by his more elaborate robes, stepped forward, his amplified voice booming across the arena. "Was this treachery? Guards, eliminate these rebels." Arena security forces converged from all entrances, but they faced opposition from unexpected quarters as many of the captive fighters chose that moment to join the uprising. What had been an ordered spectacle descended into chaotic battle, section by section of the massive space becoming flashpoints of resistance. Amara and Elias fought their way toward the central platform, the first spear cutting through opposition with impossible precision. Their movements synchronized perfectly through the blood bond, each anticipating the other's actions without need for communication. Where Amara's traditional combat training featured disciplined spear techniques, Elias contributed adaptive tactics and unconventional approaches from his military background. They reached the base of the royal viewing box just as a security detachment formed a final line of defense before the arena lords. These were elite warriors, each bearing ceremonial weapons that now revealed their true nature as advanced technology disguised as traditional armaments. "The false lords hide behind their guardians," Amara called out, addressing both the combatants and the wider audience. "They who corrupted our sacred traditions now fear facing true warriors." The lead guard stepped forward, a towering figure whose armor marked him as commander of the arena forces. "Amara of House Vale, you were judged and found wanting, sentenced to redeem yourself through honorable combat. Instead, you flee and return with sedition and blasphemy." "The only blasphemy," Amara responded, "is how the arena lords have twisted our ways to maintain power." She raised the first spear, its glow intensifying. "This is the true blood oath, the ancestral bond meant to protect our people, not enslave them." The commander's eyes widened as he recognized the restored spear. The first fragment. "Impossible, not impossible," Elias added, stepping alongside Amara. "Inevitable. Your lords have ruled through deception, hiding the truth of your people's heritage. Today, that deception ends." The commander hesitated, centuries of ingrained reverence for the first spear conflicting with his oath to the arena lords. Behind him, the lords themselves began a strategic withdrawal toward a concealed exit in the rear of the viewing box. "They flee," Castiel shouted, leading a detachment of warriors to cut off the escape route. The commander made his decision, raising his weapon with grim determination. "Then I die with honor in service." The elite guards attacked as one, their coordinated assault testing even the enhanced abilities granted by the Blood Bond. Elias and Amara fell into perfect rhythm, the spear passing between them as needed, each movement flowing into the next as if they had trained together for years. Around them, the larger battle for the arena continued, resistance fighters securing entrances, freeing more captives, overwhelming the increasingly disorganized security forces. Many regular guards, seeing the first spear restored and witnessing the uprising's momentum, laid down their weapons. The elite guard commander proved a formidable opponent, his weapon and armor clearly incorporating ancestral technology similar to the first spear itself. After a furious exchange that left both sides bloodied, he managed to separate Amara from Elias with a powerful energy blast that sent her sliding across the arena floor. Seizing the momentary advantage, he bore down on Elias with lethal intent. The outsider dies first. Elias parried the first strikes, but found himself driven back, his enhanced abilities insufficient against the commander's superior training and equipment. A devastating blow knocked him to his knees, his guard broken. As the commander raised his weapon for the killing strike, the first spear hurtled through the air, guided by Amara's perfect throw. It passed through the commander's energy shield as if it weren't there, piercing his armor at a precise junction point that no ordinary warrior could have known. The commander fell, his final expression one of shocked recognition, not of defeat, but of awakening. "The true way returns," he whispered as life left him. Amara reclaimed the spear, helping Elias to his feet. Together they turned toward the viewing box where Castiel's forces had cornered the arena lords, preventing their escape. The uprising had succeeded. Throughout the arena, resistance fighters had gained control, and word was arriving of similar victories across the city. The lead arena lord stepped forward, his ornate robes doing little to disguise his fear. "This meaningless rebellion cannot stand. We are the rightful rulers of Zila Prime, chosen by nothing but your own ambition," Amara interrupted, her voice carrying across the now silent arena. "You corrupted the sacred traditions to maintain your power, hiding the truth from our people." She raised the first spear, projecting its light into the center of the arena, where it expanded into a massive holographic display visible to all. Images from the temple showing the true history of their ancestors, the original purpose of the blood oath, the technological heritage that had been buried beneath superstition and ritual. "Behold the truth. We are descendants of star travelers who came to Zila Prime seeking peace. The traditions you twisted were meant to preserve knowledge and protect our people until we were ready to reclaim our heritage." The crowd, fighters and spectators alike, watched in stunned silence as centuries of hidden history unfolded before them. The arena lords' faces contorted with rage and fear as their foundational deceptions were exposed. Elias stepped forward, addressing the broader audience. "Your ancestors left you a legacy of knowledge and advancement, not subjugation. The blood oath was meant to bind warriors to noble purpose, to protect rather than to dominate. Castiel and his warriors secured the arena lords, binding them with the same restraints they had used on countless fighters over the years. They will face justice according to the true traditions," he announced. "Not execution, but judgment before a council of all houses." As the immediate threat subsided, Amara and Elias found themselves at the center of attention. Fighters, spectators, and resistance warriors all looking to them for direction. The blood oath had made them symbols of the uprising, living embodiments of the prophecy fulfilled. Amara raised her voice once more, the first spear amplifying her words. "Today marks not just an end to tyranny, but a beginning. We reclaim our heritage and our future, not to repeat the mistakes of the past, but to forge a new path that honors the best of our traditions while embracing the knowledge our ancestors preserved for us. A cheer erupted from thousands of throats, echoing throughout the massive structure and beyond into the city streets, where news of the uprising was spreading rapidly. House banners that had been hidden for generations now appeared, flying alongside the resistance standard. In the days that followed, the full scope of the transformation became apparent. The resistance had planned thoroughly, immediately establishing a provisional council representing all houses, securing vital infrastructure, and releasing detailed information about the ancestral legacy hidden for so long. Hidden caches of technology were opened, ancient learning centers reactivated. The Temple of the First Spear was declared open to all who wished to learn the truth of their heritage. The blood oath, once twisted into a tool of subjugation, was restored to its original purpose, a voluntary bond between warriors committed to protection rather than domination. 1 week after the uprising, Elias and Amara stood on a balcony overlooking the transformed city. Construction crews were already removing the arena's more brutal features, repurposing the space as a gathering place for education and governance. In the distance, spacecraft long hidden in secure facilities were being examined by engineering teams, the first steps toward reclaiming their ancestors' spacefaring capabilities. Your consortium will be surprised when Zila Prime makes contact on its own terms, Amara observed, watching Elias's reaction. Very surprised, he agreed with a smile. Though perhaps not as surprised as I was to discover that picking up a broken spear would lead to all this. She leaned against the balcony rail, the first spear secured across her back. The elders believe you were always meant to crash here, that your ship was deliberately affected by the barrier fields to bring you to us at precisely the right moment. And what do you believe? Elias asked, genuinely curious. Amara considered the question. I believe that intentions matter less than choices. You chose to defend someone in need. You chose to help free my people. You chose to accept the blood oath as partner rather than master. She turned to face him fully. Those choices reveal more about the ancestral design than any prophecy. Speaking of choices, Elias said carefully, now that your people are reclaiming their technology, the blood bond could potentially be adjusted. If you wanted your freedom from an arrangement you never asked for. Amara's golden eyes studied him with unexpected warmth. The bond has already changed from constraint to connection. I feel its presence, but not as limitation. She placed her hand on the first spear's shaft, its crystals glowing gently in response. Besides, there is much work yet to do. Zila Prime will need ambassadors to your consortium as we rejoin the interstellar community. Are you suggesting a diplomatic mission? Elias asked, hope rising within him at the prospect of returning home. Not alone, but with a purpose and a partner. I am suggesting that chosen ones choose their own path forward, Amara replied, a smile transforming her once stern features. Whether that leads to the stars or remains here rebuilding what was lost, the choice is ours to make together. Elias felt the bond between them pulse with possibility. No longer the mystical connection of ancient tradition nor the technological linkage of ancestral design, but something new forged through shared struggle and mutual respect. Together sounds good to me, he said simply, reaching out to take her hand. As their fingers intertwined, the first spear glowed briefly in acknowledgement. The ancient technology recognizing not just compatible genetic patterns, but the rarest connection of all, a freely chosen bond stronger than any oath could compel. On the horizon, the twin sons of Zila Prime began their descent, casting long shadows across a city in transformation, a world poised between reclaimed past and unexplored future, guided by warriors who had raised a broken spear and found both purpose and each other in its restoration.